Welcome to Streaming Into the Void, where we discuss the streaming news for the week ending May 3rd, 2026. I'm Kim Hollis, digital marketing expert and new owner of a 20-sided die larger than my face.
Kim, do a perception check.
Nat 20. Let's go.
Is it a big plush one?
It's squishy.
It's squishy? Okay, I think I've seen those things. Okay, those are awesome.
Yes. With me is Tim Brighty, content creator, gamer, and someone who had a substantially better April than the Mets.
I mean, who didn't?
And considering the week Tim just had, that's saying something.
Yeah, right.
Tim, I actually think it's galaxy brain because, you can't choke in September if you're way behind in April.
Exactly.
That's right. Also, David Mumpower, author of Behind the Ride and streaming media analyst, whose TSA pre-check appointment started at 1:30 but was done at 1:28.
I keep telling you all that the concept of the arc of time is illusory. I just shattered it for you.
And the podcast is produced and edited by Raul Burial, the last Canadian standing in the SITV playoffs.
Carrying a whole country on my back, no pressure.
This week, the Federal Communications Commission takes center stage. In its request to the FCC for approval of the merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery, it was revealed that Paramount would be 49.5% foreign-owned after the merger.
Wait. 49.5%? They were previously saying it was maybe 20. Is that a lot more?
I like that they're aiming for that 50% threshold. Like, that's perfectly cool, guys. But I'm going to tell you now about Section 310 of the Communications Act of 1934. It limits direct foreign ownership to 20% and indirect ownership through a controlling U.S. entity to 25% for broadcast and common carrier licensees.
All right. Is anyone good at math? What is 20 plus 25? Is that more or less than 49.5? Help me out with this. This seems hard.
It is less than 49.5%. Yes, the Ellison family, which will have a controlling stake in Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery, says that foreign investors will have nearly 50% ownership in this new merged company, which, according to the law, is not allowed. But sure, guys, you go ahead and try that.
And when they say foreign owned, we really mean like Saudi Arabian owned or something like that, right?
Oh, yeah. We're not talking about like Canadians or British.
We're talking about specifically one country, but yeah.
Well, it is going to be roughly 38% investment funds out of the Middle East spread across 3 different countries, as well as I think the other balance is like Chinese owners.
Okay.
So, all our best friends out there.
But still, this is just straight up not allowed.
They would need a pretty large exemption from the FCC, and I don't know that Congress would even let that stand, which is certainly not something else that's currently happening right now, is it?
Meanwhile, more state attorneys general joined the antitrust lawsuit to block the merger between Nexstar and Tegna that had been approved by the FCC.
Oh, and not just any of them. Now we have some red states going, oh no, this is terrible. We can't have this. Which means this has become both sides of the political aisle saying this is an absolutely atrocious idea. And yet it still got rammed through by the administration, which raises all kinds of questions. But it's fascinating because it does appear this one really might collapse. And we've been saying, we don't know, because it's already done. But the judge already ruled and made it very difficult in the short term. And now this.
But all this was just the warm-up as the FCC dropped a hammer, ordering Disney's ABC to file for its broadcast renewal license within 30 days, years ahead of their scheduled renewal date.
All because someone got their feelings hurt over a joke made by Jimmy Kimmel.
Which, by the way, just to be clear, happened ahead of time and was probably unrelated and was similar to other jokes that have been made by the person whose feelings got hurt. So we've got all kinds of issues here, but we cannot stress this enough. We don't want to talk politics on this podcast. we don't want you doom scrolling. We're trying to give you some relief during the week so that you get away from that stuff. So here's what we're going to say based on factual information. This never should have happened. The last time an FCC license was revoked was a Mississippi station in 1972, more than 50 years ago. This doesn't happen. So when you hear about how we are seeing unprecedented things happening, that's not random happenstance. That is not a false accusation. That is based in real life. This is where we are now, where the head of the FCC does things that make absolutely no sense from a legal perspective and, in fact, seem indefensible, just as we saw with the Tecna Nexstar thing, which in court is struggling because it's not legal. Now we have this where ABC owns some of its affiliates in major markets, and those affiliates are suddenly supposed to defend their licenses right now that last through a minimum of 2028 and usually 2031. In other words, we're somewhere between 2 and 5 years ahead of schedule on this, and the claim being made is it is because of DEI concerns, which means Disney was apparently too thoughtful in hiring people based on anything possible rather than just hiring white people. And the current administration is anti-DEI and doesn't like that. So here we are, but we all know that's not the real reason this happened, because last Saturday night, we're filming this on a Saturday, which means 7 days ago, something apparently happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner where someone may have been trying to kill the President of the United States. And we cannot say this enough. We admonish those actions. We find them abhorrent. That is not the way we do things in this country. That is not the way we do things on this planet. So we understand that feelings are dialed up right now, but the head of the FCC is trying to blame Disney for a joke made by a talk show host that was done days before the assassination attempt and was completely unrelated. It's just something they're trying to use an excuse because they want that person fired. Again, yes, this happened in September of 2025. Last year, no, it doesn't make any sense. Yes, it is ridiculous.
In other news, Prime Video scored a coup as they secured streaming rights to 3 marquee basketball games from Duke University.
Is that a big deal? Is Duke University any good at basketball?
I have heard many times that Duke sucks. However, it appears, based on performance in seasons and NCAA tournaments, that Duke is pretty good. So let's look and see whether or not these games are big ones. Okay, they are playing Michigan, the reigning champion, UConn, who has won 2 of the last 4 years, and Gonzaga, one of the titans in the sport. So yeah, these 3 games are absolutely huge. And folks, this is an offshoot of 2 very different stories, one of which we've only lightly covered on the podcast, and the other one which we cover a lot. Streaming services have figured out more people subscribe when the streaming service has exclusive rights to live sporting events they want to watch. And let me tell you, everyone wants to watch Duke versus Michigan and Duke versus UConn, and now we have this. And on top of that, NIL has just become a fascinating factor in the future of streaming because the NCAA already has licensing rights set up rather exclusively and tightly with ESPN during the season. ESPN was aware of these negotiations and agreed to them with Duke in exchange for Duke giving ESPN strong considerations for the 27 and 28 seasons. Right now, Duke needs money, though, because NIL is expensive. I know for a fact. The University of Tennessee just signed 6 players in NIL who visited the campus. We managed to lock down all 6 of them. That is such a coup, I can't even tell you. Meanwhile, the University of Kentucky has lost repeatedly on players who historically would have happily signed with the University of Kentucky. And the reason why was Kentucky wasn't delivering the money of some of its competitors. Money is what matters first and foremost to players, not the storied history of programs. Duke is aware of this, and so Duke needs more cash. Amazon has all sorts of deep pockets. This is win-win for both parties, and it's also pretty good for basketball fans since most people do have Amazon Prime. But if you're an NCAA fan, you won't be canceling Amazon Prime during the 2026 season because Duke, UConn, Duke, Michigan, hell yes.
Okay, Tim, we certainly have box office to talk about this week, don't we?
Yes. So after last weekend, where Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, earned, $97.2 million for the weekend, we are now in May, ostensibly what used to be considered the start of the summer movie season. And we started off with The Devil Wears Prada 2. I'm not the audience for this one, but $32.5 million on Friday.
I'm sorry, Tim. You meant like for the weekend?
No, just on Friday. I mean, $10 million of that is on Thursday, but still, $32 million on Friday for, yes, The Devil Wears Prada 2. Good job, ladies. You did it.
Yes, ladies.
Ladies.
Definitely
ladies.
not me. No.
No, not you at all, Roll, right? Really? Okay.
Tim, for comparison, what did the original make on its opening weekend?
Now, keep in mind, this was back in 2006. We knew it was going to be a hit because it was a very well-known book adaptation at the time, but that came in with the weekend of $27.5 million. Oh my God, it made more on its first day than the opening weekend of that movie, which, by the way, only made $124 million domestically. It was still a big hit. It made $200 million internationally, so it's $326 million worldwide, which is super impressive for the time. And sure,
and it only had a $35 million budget, so it was hugely profitable. Hugely.
Yes, crazy success. Yes. It took 20 years for there to be a sequel. I'm not sure why they needed to make a sequel, but I guess that's why when it made this much money, that's probably why. But yeah, that's just one of those fun things that we haven't seen in a long time in box office. A sequel that basically just like topped the original in a single day, effectively.
I still remember when Meryl Streep wouldn't do sequels.
Yeah, we live in a world now where that's possible. So I'm really looking forward to Sophie's Revenge. Run, Dingo, run.
Yeah, it's more good news at the box office. I mean, this is headed to 80 million maybe?
Kim and I were discussing this at dinner last night. This may have a better opening weekend than The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I'm not saying that as a slight to Star Wars. I'm just saying this is such a spectacular opening that, it's... it is competitive. And so Disney owns both of them. So Disney executives are grinning from ear to ear right now. I'm looking at the estimate right now, and I've got 78 million is the current expectation for the weekend domestically. And by the way, as you mentioned, this does play very well overseas. So we're going to have consecutive massive global debuts. Speaking of which, what's going on with Michael? Because I know we had questions last week about its profitability. We really don't at this point, do we?
No, even with that ridiculous budget that it had, again, as I mentioned, it was 97 million for the weekend. That was just domestically. Most recent number worldwide is 265 million. It's already at 144 million domestically, 14.4 million on its second Friday, 63% Friday to Friday, factoring in the Thursday on the opening day, but that's still pretty good. You can't argue with this performance at all. It won't be an issue in terms of profitability at this point. So there's all sorts of good news at the box office right now. Super Mario Galaxy movie is just about to cross 400 million domestically. Project Hail Mary, by the way, is still holding on pretty well, over 300 million domestically. So 2026 looking, again, top heavy, which is never ideal, but looking better than it was a couple months ago.
All right. Thanks, Tim. How about we discuss the ratings?
Yes, we have the Nielsen streaming ratings for Monday, March 30th to Sunday, April 5th, 2026. Your top original show is The Pit from HBO Max. Wow. 1.1 billion minutes for its 28 episodes. A couple weeks away from the season 2 finale arriving on these ratings. Honestly, given what we've talked about on What's New the last couple weeks, I don't think anything is going to top it, so it might stay on top until we get that finale. This might be the first time we've actually had an HBO Max show on top of originals.
Honestly, aside from Peacemaker, I can't even think of another HBO Max series
that's actually made originals. Yeah, no, this is, again, always a solid performer, especially, again, not on Netflix, so I expect that to stay on top through its finale. I will probably be proven wrong next week for getting something obvious, but we'll see. Returning in second, Love on the Spectrum US, 865 million minutes, 27 episodes from Netflix. The fourth season of 7 episodes arrived on April 1st. It actually had been a year since the previous season was beginning of April 2025. Not going to shade this one. This one's at least on the heartwarming side as far as reality series goes. Up to third, Something Very Bad is going to happen. 8 episodes, 821 million minutes viewed from Netflix. So a solid jump for the full week of its availability for its season. Meanwhile, Paradise from Hulu, 672 million minutes for 16 episodes. This was its finale. Final episode of the second season arriving on March 30th. So 2 seasons of 8 episodes each now. Well, Invincible is actually releasing weekly, 611 million minutes, 30 episodes from Prime Video.
Sign up for the Duke basketball, stay for the animated cartoon.
Absolutely. This one is way more popular than I thought. Virgin River, 588 million minutes, 74 episodes from Netflix. Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black, 495 million minutes, 32 episodes. The Madison having its season completed in 2 chunks, 485 million minutes, 6 episodes, Paramount Plus. Returning in 9th, Exo Kitty, 464 million minutes, 26 episodes from Netflix. The 3rd season of 8 episodes arrived on April 2nd. We'd seen this one before, not a surprise that it's back. What was this a spin-off of? Oh, To All the Boys. Okay, yes, that's a show we also had seen on the ratings at one point when it was having new episodes.
I appreciate Tim answering that question so I wouldn't have to.
And Originals wraps up with One Piece, 427 million minutes for its 2 seasons and 16 episodes. Movies is led by Crime 101, 696 million minutes. It arrived during this ratings week on Prime Video. I fell for it again, guys. I was like, wow, I can't believe we didn't talk about this one on What's New for that week. And then I realized it was actually a theatrical release in February.
I have absolutely no recollection.
You know what? I went back and it was like, wait, how the heck did we miss this one?
Is it the Chris Hemsworth movie?
It is,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
In fact, I went back and checked when it opened, and it was mid-February, and it kind of did get buried because the top movie that weekend was The Wuthering Heights that made 45 million, and then Goat was the second that made 41 million. This was third with 18 million for its opening weekend. So really, that wasn't terrible. It just got, buried by the headliners, and it kind of fell off from there. It actually only made 36.5 million domestically. Yeah, just after Mercy last week, which, by the way, is still here and also on Prime Video. I completely blanked on these 2026 releases at the start of the year. One I did not blank on, that was a theatrical release in December, is still here in second. Anaconda. This one's on Netflix, of course. 676 million minutes for second in its first full week of availability. Rule, what'd you think on this one? I saw you said once you realized it existed, you were going to watch it.
That's a big no.
No. Okay. Moving on, Zootopia 2 from Disney Plus, 465 million minutes, and the aforementioned Mercy, 297 million minutes from Prime Video. We drop off pretty hard after there. But new in 5th, 28 years later, The Bone Temple, 296 million minutes from Netflix. This one was also a 2026 theatrical release earlier in the year. New to Netflix during this week, so yeah, makes sense that it's here. Been a while since we've seen one of these, and I swear at one point they were under the originals chart, but Untold, The Death and Life of Lamar Odom is 281 million minutes from Netflix. This is the sports docu-series that Netflix puts out from time to time. 7th, The Truth and Tragedy of Moriah Wilson, 256 million minutes from Netflix. I was wondering if it was one of those Lifetime adaptations that they just imported, but no, it unfortunately was an original true crime thing that showed up on April 3rd. Okay. Minions, The Rise of Gru, new to Netflix as of a couple weeks ago, 230 million minutes. Back in 9th, K-pop Demon Hunters, so all is right with the world, 228 million minutes. And Madagascar wraps up movies, 218 million minutes from Netflix in 10th. Acquired is 9 shows we have seen before, led once again by Grey's Anatomy, 820 million minutes for its 465 episodes. Our one new show lands in 5th, and it is Mike and Molly, 587 million minutes viewed for 127 episodes from Netflix. For some reason, on March 26th, all 6 seasons of the show starring Melissa McCarthy arrived on Netflix, and that's why it is here.
Melissa McCarthy is seriously one of the biggest stars in the world.
This show always amuses me because obviously we knew who she was through things like Gilmore Girls through the 2000s, and then this show debuted in 2010, and then she became like nearly the biggest star in the world for like a year or two, thanks to things like Bridesmaids. She was in Identity Thief, which was a hit. The Heat was a huge hit, and all this time she's still making the show for like 6 seasons. And meanwhile, she's just having this huge box office success. But she stuck it out for those seasons till it ended. Nothing else exciting on the acquired chart this week. I like to point out whenever Gunsmoke shows up, that's here in 10th, 516 million minutes. That's really all I've got to talk about for the ratings this week. Nothing too exciting, but I guess we're finally getting a little bit of a shakeup from the same shows every single week.
Okay, thank you, Tim. In our green lights and cancellations this week, Prime Video's spinoff to The Boys, Gen V, is ending after 2 seasons.
I do get the feeling that the Boys franchise is just petering out. We had a conversation offline about this. I seem to vaguely recall there being an animated Boys spinoff as well at some point in the past. And now that the main series is ending, I just think Prime Video's just done with the franchise.
So that's not true. But before I get to that, I should say that this one's been cursed. Before season 2 started, one of the actors was riding their motorcycle to the production set and died. And so they had to rewrite most of season 2 because he was one of the key characters on the show. They've been adapting ever since then, and obviously they've liberally borrowed some of those characters for The Boys' main show. But now what's clear is the focus of the franchise moving forward is going to be the Soldier Boy character, as they're already filming the prequel. And so this is what I was joking about when I said I was sure that wasn't going to be the series finale of The Boys. The Boys is going to continue indefinitely because Amazon doesn't have much, and what they have, they're going to run into the ground. Raul is right that there does appear to be some saturation of the product, and people are like, we've got enough of this in real life. We don't want to watch it from our entertainment. But The Boys isn't going anywhere, and I expect the prequel series to run multiple seasons, and then after that, they'll see where they're at, and they'll try and reinvigorate the brand with something new.
Meanwhile, Prime Video's viral animated hit Has Been Hotel has been renewed for a 5th and final season.
There's been a surge of success for these independent animated series that start on YouTube and then get picked up by streaming services. Has Been Hotel is definitely popular with the younger crowd. I'm going to mention The Amazing Digital Circus, which is another show that I've been watching with my daughter. It's on YouTube, but episodes also appear on Netflix. The last 2 episodes of The Amazing Digital Circus are actually going to be combined for a theatrical release in June. And I'm telling you, watch out for that one. That one is going to shock everyone by how successful it is at the box office. Yeah, these animated series, independently produced on a dime, essentially, they're hits. Has Been Hotel, 5 seasons on Prime Video. Good for them.
Yeah, the only surprise I have here is it says final season. I don't watch the show, so I don't know if it's actually reaching a logical conclusion, but I'd just keep this one running indefinitely if I could.
Hulu's Scrubs reboot has been renewed for a 2nd season.
I'm glad it got renewed because I saw the last episode of this season and I didn't realize it was the last episode. It just kind of ends. As a Scrub series, it's exactly what you want, although it has a slightly off feel to it. I won't expand on that right now, but yeah, I'm glad it got renewed, and I very much expect that it doesn't cost a lot of money or time to produce. So I'm happy that it's moving ahead with season 2.
Oh, that's good, because I haven't finished it. We'll talk about it more in a minute, but I was like wondering when I saw it got renewed, I'm like, wait, I thought it was just going to be like a one-off. I didn't realize it was going to aim for a 2nd season.
Netflix won't let Stranger Things die, as the animated spin-off Tales from 85 has been renewed for a 2nd season.
Talk about running properties into the ground. It mustn't cost them a lot to produce, and clearly the Netflix algorithm knows what works for them. Season 2 of what some have speculated was essentially cutscenes to a canceled video game is moving ahead, so okay.
Yeah, like I was saying, the Boys franchise will never die. Nothing ever dies these days. And we were joking about whether or not Stranger Things would work as a cartoon. It doesn't matter whether it works as a cartoon. It only matters whether or not the brand has enough interest in it that people keep watching.
Finally, Peacock has kicked the Clueless sequel series to the curb, opting not to move ahead with production.
Yeah, this was announced the same week as the Comcast earnings a couple of weeks ago, suggesting that the cost of producing the series, which was set to bring back Alicia Silverstone, was ballooning beyond what Peacock was willing to pay. Given that Peacock remains the only major streaming service that is losing money, I'm not surprised that they're looking to cut corners. The upside for fans of the Clueless franchise is that this is actually a Paramount property, and it looks like Paramount is going to shop it, and so it's likely this series will still happen.
I'm not one to question the algorithm as a rule, but I do think that we're consistently seeing that the algorithm underestimates the power of nostalgia. We mentioned it with the Buffy reboot falling apart. We've got this. There have been other examples where it just doesn't seem that streaming services fully appreciate how much people will watch something that we remember fondly from 20 years ago. Disney is actually finding this out right now with the Hannah Montana 20th year anniversary thing, which is doing extraordinarily well and better than anyone had anticipated. Clueless is a winning concept. This needs to be airing somewhere.
Okay, as always, we close it out with what's been keeping us busy over the last week. I read The Finn Family Moomin Troll by Tova Jansson. She is a Finnish author who has written books both for children and for adults. She is terrific, or was terrific. You probably have seen Moomin Troll and the Moomins in various places. They have cartoons, they have merchandise that has become quite popular recently. It is a really charming little book. I have a really nice special edition. It looks wonderful. The illustrations are really terrific. She has just created a really fascinating cast of characters. And even in this particular book, the character who is thought to be the villain throughout the story turns out to just be someone who is sweet and wants to laugh. It's a really uplifting, heartwarming story. I have a couple of the Moomin Trolls games for the Nintendo Switch, and I will look forward to a cozy little experience playing those at some point as well. Raul, what's been keeping you busy?
As I implied earlier, I watched that Anaconda spiritual remake. I wouldn't recommend it. Paul Rudd has a habit of making these weird little reboots, short little video clips, 5, 10, 15-minute things. This is somehow somebody giving him a lot more money than he knew what to do with, and it just got out of hand and became a movie. It's goofy at times, but altogether too long to waste your time on. Instead, I'm going to tell you about a couple of things I've been watching on Apple TV. Apple TV is a weird little streaming service where I kind of set it aside for a while, as I've used the term before, subscribing to a streaming service on spec. I came back to Apple TV last week and I started watching Margot's Got Money Troubles, which is first incredibly good. It is stunningly entertaining, starring Elle Fanning as a college student who gets pregnant and has a child and then has to struggle with the day-to-day issues of having to raise a child and all the money issues that come up with that. She's always great. I've always loved Elle Fanning, but the stars here are her parents, played by Nick Offerman as a former professional wrestler, and Michelle Pfeiffer, who is a sales clerk at Bloomingdale's. They are stunning, both of them. Now, Michelle Pfeiffer is suddenly on 2 different series on streaming at once, as she's also in the Madison. There's one scene very early on in the first episode where Michelle Pfeiffer just acts through facial expressions that is just amazing. But really, Nick Offerman steals the show here as the former wrestler. He's always been great. I mean, he's fantastic on Parks and Rec. We've seen him on so many different things. He plays a largely serious, dramatic role here as a wrestler who is also recovering from drug addiction, because as a wrestler, you suffer through a lot of pain and you oftentimes become addicted to pain-relieving drugs.
Basically, if you've seen anything Ric Flair has posted on social media for the last 15 years, you know the deal.
Yes, it's just an amazing performance. He is great to watch. I've seen the first 4 episodes. I will tell you, you get to see a lot of Elle Fanning in this. Yeah, that's a thing, but that's not why you're watching this. In fact, it's a very difficult watch because of the challenges that Margot suffers through in this series. It is not pleasant. It is not comfortable, but you are seeing some incredible things. And by the 4th episode, Nicole Kidman shows up as a former wrestler. I gotta tell you guys, this is just genius casting. Nicole Kidman is fantastic. Yeah, you gotta see this if no other reason than because Nicole Kidman here as a wrestler is great. But given it's Apple TV, they don't only have one good show, as I've also seen the first episode of Widow's Bay, starring Matthew Rhys as the mayor of a small town off the coast of New England. It is kind of a paranormal mystery comedy drama. A+. First episode, A+. Oh my gosh. It's funny. It's scary. It's entertaining. The cast is incredible. Stephen Root is here as just a crackpot New England fisherman. But Matthew Rhys, who has always been a great actor, from The Americans to his role as Perry Mason, now playing, I don't know how he does it. He is a Welsh actor. Here he plays a not originally from New England, but now lives in New England and is mayor of a small coastal town American who's got a perfect accent that sounds like a person that would be exactly that. This guy's incredible. If Margot's Got Money Troubles is maybe a little too intense for you, I strongly suggest you watch Widow's Bay instead. It's just a whole lot of fun. Strongly recommended. If you've got an Apple TV subscription, you probably do and forgot about it because you haven't watched anything on it for a few months. Turn on Apple TV and have a look. Both these shows strongly recommended.
All right, Tim, what's been keeping you busy?
I watched a few episodes of the Scrubs reboot. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. I'm just glad that it exists. We brought back Zach Braff, Sarah Chalk, Donald Faison as JD, Elliot, and Turk. 20 years later, they're back, and they set up why JD returns to the hospital where Elliot and Turk have always been, and Dr. Cox is still there briefly. John McGinley is in for one episode. I believe he comes back later, but then he just feels like he just disappears for good after that. But all the characters are there. They have a new batch of interns who are all really good in their roles. Happy to see, the Todd back in a brief role. Hooch is still crazy. That's always fun as well. And of course, Judy Reyes as Carla, despite having a role on High Potential, is glad that she was able to come back for this as well. It's the right mix of funny. There's always one or two really good laughs in there. And then 2 minutes later, it's tugging at your heartstrings with some dramatic or poignant or heartfelt moment. I'm not sure it needed a second season. Maybe if I finish, I'll realize, okay, yeah, it does. Roll points out, it just, in his opinion, the final episode just kind of ends rather than seeming like a finale. When I finish it, I wonder if I'll have the same opinion. Vanessa Bayer is actually very funny as a new character who is an HR head and also wellness specialist, showing JD how things are very different than 20 years ago in terms of dealing with, med students and patients in terms of things you can't say. And one of the reasons Dr. Cox can no longer do the job. I don't know if I like Joel Kim Booster's character, who is basically set up to be JD's nemesis. I don't know if I like that part, but I like just about everything else that I've seen so far. I'll finish it out. It's on the Hulu portion of Disney Plus, and of course it aired on ABC. Yeah, if you liked Scrubs and you haven't watched it yet, why not? As David pointed out, it is a good time for nostalgia. Most of them seem to be hitting. Like there was Malcolm in the Middle, but then they cancel a Buffy reboot, cancel a Clueless reboot. We got to tap into this nostalgia while we can, folks. So sure, just go for it.
Okay, and David.
Kim, what have I done this week?
You have finished A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinniman.
That's right. Kim is finally off the deck. She got in trouble because she read this like 6 weeks before I did. We subscribe to Matt Dinniman's Patreon, and because of that, we have access to the chapters as he publishes them. I wasn't reading them live, and I'm so glad I wasn't, because he cliffhangs chapters in ways that will just tear you apart if you had to wait a week or two to see what happened next. So as things stand, I'm glad I waited until I did, but I have to say, I cannot wait to see where we're going next. A Parade of Horribles doesn't officially release until 10 days from now. Kim has already told me that she's most of the way through her reread of the first Dungeon Crawler Carl book again. That's definitely where I'm heading next with this, because Book 8 finally gives us the landscape of where we're going and where we're coming from. I loved it. I loved it. It does have the Mission Impossible problem where some of the scenes have so much action and drama where you're just like, okay, I need a break. And there isn't a long enough break. But yeah, our love of Dungeon Crawler Carl isn't going away. And he has already said that he is basically starting on the finale right now. There's 2 books left in the series, and he's going to write them simultaneously, and then he's going to decide how to split them. So I can't wait to see what's next. But when Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 8 becomes available on May 12th. It is time for everyone listening to this who is not currently reading the books to get on board. And if you're not sure, remember that there's also an audiobook. And I was joking in Discord the other day, but this blows my mind. If you go to audible.com, out of their top 25 bestsellers, 8 are Dungeon Crawler Carl books, which tells you everything you need to know about the quality of the audiobooks. There are 8 books, and they're all in the top 25 of everything on Audible. It's just mind-blowing, and that's because Dungeon Crawler Carl is the best thing going in pop culture right now. Period. Full stop.
Thank you for listening to Streaming Into the Void. Please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts, and we welcome your feedback. Remember that we're on social media at Streaming Void and online at streamingvoid.com. If you like what you're hearing, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon at patreon.com/streamingvoid. Be sure to watch for us again next week.